Well, folks, let me tell you, working on the Fan as a rugby league supporter is the best job in the world. I'm going to introduce you now to someone very special, the oldest living Canterbury player, Mr. Ted Schell, Canterbury player, number 187. I've got to say Berry, not a Bulldog, Ted. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Andrew.
1953, 1954, playing with Canterbury. There's a story before there. Let's go way back. Where was your first rugby league played?
For Ainsley Ionas, under 21s, which was a Canberra junior side at the time. Then we were selected, my partner Pat and I, to play against Monero, against the French team.
Against the French side, yeah. Yeah, back in the day, so the national sides would come here and play all the regional divisions, and Monero, very strong area for rugby league.
It was a very strong area.
What about a trip to the big smoke, coming to the city? Was that always the plan, or did that just happen?
That was the ambition. Yep. Every young footballer in the country those days wanted to come to the city.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the ambition to do it. That year, I had a building contract in Burrawa.
Yeah. On Burrawa? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That game was in 51.
Yep.
The contract I had to finish it in 52 in Burrawa. We were the highest contract players Canterbury had.
Wow.
Hey, yeah.
Hang on, what are we talking? What sort of money are we talking here?
Big money, £150 a year.
£150, folks.
Which is about $17 a game in today's money.
Smoking, you are.
Huge.
That's how good's that? How good's that?
Or the players' bonus. Now, the players' bonus was £83 at the end of the year. Now, we got this money at the end of the year.
£83 bonus.
At the end of it. But we got £150, so we were up there, mate.
Now we get the time with Canterbury. I go back and look at the records. Incredibly, your first grade debut in 1953, front rower, back in the day when the front rowers wore 11 and 13 and the hooker wore 12. So you were number 13 for Canterbury at Cogra against the St George Dragons side that included the great Norm Provan before he became a great. They were on their way to building towards the start of that 11 premierships.
That's right.
Big times.
I can't remember much about it. I was asked that before and I can't remember much about that game at all.
Right.
Should I have?
Well.
I mean, that's my first game in Sydney.
Yeah.
It was like any country game. You don't know the players you're playing against. And you think, well, OK, well, they're just blokes.
Well, some big names there. And it was refereed by Cole Pearce. Like, Cole Pearce goes back a long way. The great Cole Pearce was referee of that game. So it was given some pretty important status. Norm Provan, you'd not only play against Norm, he would become a teammate of yours at one stage.
Yeah, that was the first year I was in Sydney. I got picked in city seconds to play country.
Right.
And one of the second rowers happened to be Norm Provan.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Fill in for the fans. What was it like? You're playing first grade, 53, 54, nothing like a course stadium, turning up at grounds. So you'd train, what, twice a week, would you?
Yeah.
So
trains down at Belmore, Tuesday nights, Thursday night. Then duck up. I liked to be here, but I wasn't. We'd go up to the milkshake bar just across from the picture theatre at Belmore and drink about 2 of those great big milkshakes.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So 2 training sessions and then match day, you just have to make your own way to the ground and turn up. Dressing rooms would be modest.
You paid for everything. But, they gave you a jumper and socks. I think you paid for your own shorts and everything else. Your own boots, you didn't get in much help. But nobody did. That was the days. You did it for fun. You had to get up Monday morning and go to work, and if you couldn't get up and go to work, you lost a day's pay.
See, people say, Vossy, you look through the game through rose-coloured glasses, but I love the tales of game finish and you share a beer with the bloke you played with. Like, it doesn't happen these days enough. No. You know, the great rivalry between South Sydney and the Dragons, they'd always get together at the Cauliflower Hotel. Was it the same for you? Like, after the game, you'd go in an opposition dressing room?
One of the best parts of the game was after the game when if some of the teams didn't have clubs to go to, some we just had under the stand. You didn't get together. Sure. But some of the clubs that had, we could go to a club and have a beer with. The toughest bloke I think I ever met was a bloke called Seth Waters from North Sydney. Right. Nobody probably ever heard of Seth. No. But every time I looked up, this little sandy-haired bloke was looking down with a big grin on his face. Oh. That geezer, he was a tough little rooster, I can tell you.
All right, couple more. What was the scrum like in 1953, 54? Was it? Because the scrums today are a couple, aren't they? Let's face it, they're a couple.
They're not there.
So it's full-on compact in scrums back in the day, I could imagine.
True. It was. The second rowers were very if you had a second row that had a long arm, mate, your poor old hooker got knocked about a fair bit.
Right.
It was a bit cruel in a way, because he couldn't get away. He had his arms up there and whack, you know. Yeah, it was a bit cruel.
So,
well, Freddie Anderson, our hooker,
Freddie
he
Anderson,
had bumps all over him.
Yeah, right. Had nicks on his head from butting heads and
Norm Strong from North. He was very good, but he took a lot of hiding from us too. I can remember that game.
Ted, I'm looking at you today. I reckon Cameron Serraldo could get a few games out of you. You look incredibly fit. What's the secret at 94?
He said I could probably run on in the second half for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'd love to see.
You want to know the secret? When I was a young bloke of 72, I picked up a New Zealand health magazine.
Right.
And it said, what you got to have, you've got to make sure, first thing every morning you get up, you've got to have a glass of warm water.
Warm water?
Warm water.
No lemon, just plain warm water?
Well, this magazine said warm water.
Yep.
Dissipates all the acids in your stomach.
Yep.
And another magazine I read said later on, you've got to have 2 tablespoons of virgin olive oil.
Okay.
How am I going?
Well, if it's the secret, it's the secret.
That's not all of it.
No, okay, that's 2. The olive oil. The warm water, olive oil, now 3.
Now, the next one was, I read another magazine, you had to have so much yeast and water in your body.
Yeast and water.
So I did a lot of testing, and I found out Bogue's Tasmanian beer, if I had 2 of those every night.
2 Bogue's beers every night.
Every night.
I don't mind this. This could be groundbreaking stuff.
That's what I reckon.
The Ted Schell diet.
Well, I don't want to make a fad of it. I don't want people to rush out and buy warm water and stuff. That's all I've done. I haven't done.
And do you still love the game that Canterbury still bringing you into the fold? You're proudly wearing the Bulldogs lapel there.
My daughter did that. She got in touch with Canterbury, wanted to know my number, got in touch with Luke Goodwin, and he said, look, I want to know more about this. And they got together and they just and Canterbury brought me up, brought me to the game, did everything. It was really wonderful. Went to their reunion last night. No, it was great.
All right, we'll let this ground announcer just finish there. But Ted, I want to lock in an appointment. I want to lock in another interview for 10 years' time, if that's okay, Ted.
Fair enough.
How about we meet here? 10 years' time, we'll have another chat.
All right.
By that time, I'll have adopted the warm water, olive oil, 2 Boats beer diet.
Yeah, got to be Bogues.
And we'll compare notes.
Yeah,
Ted,
fair enough.
It's an absolute honour to have you on the program, mate. Canterbury player.
So glad to meet you.
187, 94 years young, and loving the game of rugby league. Good on you, Ted.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew.